This is going to be a preview of the Ravens' home game against the Broncos in Week 13. It's a tremendously important matchup for the Ravens. Of course, these two teams played last year in a very interesting game. The Ravens had one long touchdown and then to Marquise Brown, and then a touchdown run by Latavius Murray, who now plays for the Broncos. And what we'll do is we'll go through something I think the Broncos are really good at defensively, and I think the stats kind of show that. They're certainly talented on defense. I have a couple of things to mention and some play concepts to show that I think other teams have identified as a way to attack the Broncos defense in certain situations. I think it's a hugely important game for the Ravens. If you drop this game at home and you are 7-5, I think you might as well be 6-6. I don't see a discernible difference between 7-5 and 6-6, other than you're one win closer to that 10 or 11 win number that most people presume will get you in the playoffs. But I just feel like the AFC this year is a different thing in terms of the overall number of wins that you will need. I really feel like the Ravens have got to get to 11 wins before that final game against the Bengals to end the season. You might need that win to get in the playoffs, and I think that puts you in a perilous position. Not saying that we can't beat the Bengals, because I actually want to make a point about our defense. I feel like in the Bengals game, the Ravens had something specific they were trying to stop. Downfield passes between the numbers, the bottom of the numbers, and the sideline. And then also, seam, long passes in the seam like they beat us with last year, particularly up in Cincinnati. And they played Tampa 2 to do so. They played it well. I think sometimes this Ravens defense is attempting to do too many things, kind of like that parable where, I forget the name of it, so help me out, where someone has they're standing at a wall and there's multiple cracks in the wall where water is coming out of, and they don't have enough fingers because they've only got 10, and each time a new hole pops up or pops open and water starts seeping out, they've got to move their hand over or their thumb over or their finger to block it, and an old seam starts gaping some water out of it. I feel like the Ravens defense at times becomes that, and I will show you the specific situation, I think, where the Broncos will try to attack us as such. So the first thing I'm going to go over is the Broncos' red zone defense, which is ranked extremely highly. And I'll give you a basic explanation as I think why. Number one, they're very athletic. They're very athletic. I think they've got a lot of talent. I think they have certain guys we can attack in specific situations, but they're very fast and they're very reactive. They generally are looking in the backfield a lot. I mean, across the secondary and the second level. Not saying that they don't read their keys, whether it's uncovered lineman, tight end, tackle, whatever. I'm not saying they don't read their keys or receivers at all, but I feel like they're locked in visually into the backfield a lot. And that really benefits them when they get to the red zone, because it's kind of what they do anyway, versus other teams that are maybe a little bit more pattern read or don't have their eyes as heavily locked in the backfield, like a man-to-man team whose eyes are going to be, on their man in terms of pass coverage responsibility. And then when you get into the red zone, asking them to do something different than what they do maybe 30 or 60% of the time, asking them to do something different in the red zone, between 20 and 30% of the time, overall plays maybe in a game is a drastic difference, a drastic departure from their typical technique. And I think the Broncos' typical technique is to have guys staring in the backfield, and I think there's times where it's to their detriment. So let's look at some plays in the red zone where the Ravens have obviously had trouble. I think we'll see plays from three teams, really only this first one. I'm going to show you a specific route that I think they struggle with. And I think is generally to their right on defense, which is Jackson, a little bit older safety. This is the tight end for the Jags, who we just got done playing, Ingram, beating them on, just a post corner, fade, whatever you want to call it. Some people call it smash concept, whatever. And you'll see another example you'll see at least two more examples of them struggling with that concept. I think it's something the Ravens have got to go to. All right, now just possessions in the red zone. First and goal from the 9 for the Titans. Check X slant, incomplete. Broncos are physical. They are capable of playing man, don't get me wrong. It's not like they're only playing quarters or half-field read coverages. Multiple teams have run Z under from trips. So like the outside receiver is running the under, and these two guys are trying to get to a leverage side on a second-level defender, essentially screening them or walling them off. They're not blocking. They are running routes, and then you can see in this case it's incomplete to Treylon Burks, but I'll show you another one later on in this video that's a 15-yard gain. All right, then a touchdown here. Very similar play concept, or route at least, excuse me, to the first one that I showed you to Ingram. Instead of the number one receiver running an out, this time he's running an in, so we just call it smash in. And it's just a fade or post corner or whatever to Westbrook Akini. Hopefully I'm saying his name right. And again, it's against Jackson. I'm not saying that Jackson's not a good player. He is, but I've seen that route work on him multiple times just in 2022. All right, against the Titans later on in the game, 13 personnel. I think you've got 2 tight ends up here and 1 down here, which is Okonkwo. Watch this fit by this linebacker. He's a whole lot better player than he looked. I think he started playing for them in 2020. I may be wrong on that. I remember seeing him. The commitment to his angle, he's different than the other inside linebackers they have, at least from the 4 games that I've really watched intently. And I obviously can't show you, every play from those 4 games, because as it is, I'm probably going to get a hit for copyright anyway and have to go back and edit this. All right, 2nd and 10, very next play from the 20. And they're in 21 personnel, meaning the Titans. All right, 22, excuse me. You can see 2 tight ends. Look how the Broncos have responded. They're in 5-1 nickel. Basically 1 inside backer, which is Jewel. And then here's the nickel safety. A corner. Their left safety, they're Lou, and their right safety, they're Rob. And then a Mike. So now a rush edge player who's pretty good and underrated if you ask me, and then 3 interior linemen. So we're going to see a 5-1 nickel at times. I think it's just an example of the Broncos defending down and distance. Watch this play by the nose tackle on lead stretch. Single blocked. That's him at the bottom of the pile. Additionally, 53 is there. I think 53 does a nice job on the tight end. Strong. I'll show you. He's really good at what we would call the jerk move, which is just push-pull on an offensive player, pulling him down, pulling him out of position, breaking the posture. Okonkwo is going to be the target here on a 3rd down, 3rd and 7. Titans are going to have to settle for a field goal. But look at the route. Okay, so when this happens, when you see the same concept multiple times, there's a reason for it, and you're seeing it to the same side of the field, the left, often. Now, they don't know the coverage, they being the Titans. But look, you've got a guy out in the flats, a guy checking up, and then to me, this is the same route, or essentially the same route as I've shown you twice. The touchdown to Ingram and the touchdown to Westbrook Akini. Again, I hope I'm saying his name right. So we may see that route from the Ravens, depending on who it is. They hold them to a field goal here. Look, the Broncos are very good in the red zone. No way, shape, or form am I saying the Ravens are going to easily manipulate them. All right, Chargers stuff. Just outside the red zone, short passes, I'm not sure that the Ravens is what's going to make or break this game for the Ravens. The Broncos break on first initial flow. I think a double move is going to be available to the, and I don't mean from a slot guy like I just showed you there, but like from an outside receiver. For example, like Demarcus Robinson. Now snag flat like you're seeing here. Snag. And then the flat on 3rd and short, yeah, it's a great concept. The Ravens run it, obviously, as well. You guys know that if you're watching the video. It's an outside turn, snag, same concept. 1st and 10, 1 back power. Out of their nickel, their typical nickel, so 4-2-5. So you have 2 edge rushers, 2 D tackles, and then 2 inside backers. The run fits look pretty good. I mean, their 5-1 nickel looked okay to me, too. They get to the football on full flow stuff. They're very good. I'm not sure that the Ravens are just going to run to one side and defeat, all these athletes they have up front. I do think our counter wineback is a serious threat to them with how quickly they react and how committed they are to their angles, which is a good thing. Don't get me wrong. But I think that there's the possibility for us to cut one back and get a big play. Play action stuff, the Ravens run this out of 1 back. We don't generally throw the backside drag. And you'll see a little bit later in the video some film of the Ravens doing this. When we go, boot out of one back, we're generally skipping this guy out, and that's normally Demarcus Robinson. I would love to see us throw this to the backside drag, especially the way the Chargers do it with the way that they pattern read. So the outside guy running the drag and the inside guy running some kind of vertical so that this safety just can't chase on the drag by the outside receiver. Hopefully that makes sense. Seems like free yards to me. Unless the edge rusher runs right at Lamar. Touchdown, 6-yard touchdown run by Austin Eckler. It kind of happens magically. It doesn't look like the type of thing that would get in the end zone, but it's nickel because it's 11 personnel. So when I say nickel, I mean you've got a 4-2 box, 2 edge rushers, outside linebackers, whatever you want to call them. It's not a 2-4, it's a 4-2. And then 2 D tackles, 2 inside backers versus 11 personnel. That's why you've got, quote, a light box with the nickel down here to the 2 receiver side. Ravens would run this out of 12, and we might get their base defense. But our 12 personnel, depending on who that second tight end is, our 12 personnel tends to be more pass-oriented. I do not think that we're going to get in the red zone 3 times and score 3 touchdowns against them, just to be real. I think we're probably going to get 1 red zone touchdown and 2 or 3 red zone field goals. And that's worst case scenario in terms of that last part there. I'm just letting the plays run now. 2 or 3 red zone field goals. Usually in our team, we're getting 10 possessions, somewhere around there. 10 possessions, I think we'll get 1 red zone touchdown. This is a departure for me in terms of predicting overall score. This is me now talking about the general flow of the game and what the Ravens have been able to do across now 11 football games. 12 personnel this time, still nickel, because I think they're defending down and distance, even though this is only 2nd and 5. So 1 touchdown in the red zone, meaning 1 drive trip down in the red zone where we're able to convert and beat them. And I think that's going to be key. I think that might be all we need. And then I'm telling you, I think we're going to get 1 touchdown from outside the red zone. And I'll offer you some big plays that the Broncos defense has given up because I understand that reputation-wise they're very good and some of their players have a great reputation, somewhat inflated, to be honest with you, that would probably lead some of us to say, hey, I don't think we're going to hit a big play against them. I think 1 touchdown inside the red zone, 2 field goals, maybe 3, and 10 points from outside the red zone. Now, what's that 10 points? Is it a big pass play? Maybe. Is it a defensive touchdown? Maybe. I don't know. On these screens, which we run, I think at some point the Ravens have got to, run the screen, the block, and then run one of these guys up the sideline. My arrow, extends off your viewable area there because you've got a frame up top. They react quickly, and they're fading already, but they're waiting to see that the ball is actually released. In my opinion, we've got to run. It wouldn't be Ricard. It'd be Andrews or Likely, fake the block and run up the sideline, essentially turn it into a fade while running the hitch screen with Duve. Because normally we've got Duve over there with 2 tight ends or Duve over there with a tight end and a fullback. And I'll show you that play a little bit later too. The 10 points from outside the red zone, I think am I saying that we're definitely going to get those? No. I mean, we need them though. We need 10 because of how good the Broncos are in the red zone. We need those 10 points from outside the red zone to try to beat this team. 24 points, 26 points, if you ask me, is all it'll take to get the job done. All right, let's look at some big plays. And to do that, first, we're going to look at actual Ravens plays from 2021. So our pass plays, I've omitted run plays from last year. Not that there weren't some good run plays. Like I said, I think Demarcus Robinson had like a 16-yard touchdown run against them off the left side last year. I could be wrong. Look, this is going to be 8 pass plays from last year, totaling 158 yards. This is a great throw by Lamar from under center. The Broncos, are doing this invert cover 2, dropping the safeties down, and then inverting the corners. It's a great defense on 1st and 10, trying to create a 9-man front, right? But really, you have a 9-man front anyway with two safeties who are reading and reacting. And then sneak in, I think this is Watkins, in between the center, in between the safeties. Great throw. When you see the end zone angle, you'll see it. So 8 plays here that I'm showing you, 158 passing yards. But here's 2 caveats to that. This does not include, this set of 8 plays does not include, look at that throw by Lamar. This does not include Marquise Brown's 49-yard touchdown catch, his diving catch. Great throw. It also does not include Prochet's, or the downfield screen to Duve on a 3rd and 30. So there's 70 yards out there that I'm not showing you. Okay, here's an over concept that they've been beat on multiple times. You get 2 clear, I'm talking about this year, 2 clear out routes from the bottom side, and then Andrews beats Simmons, which he beat multiple times last year. Now, I know Andrews isn't completely healthy, and Simmons he did compete with him last year, don't get me wrong. He's a great player. I personally think that he's a little reactive to things that he sees in the backfield, and he can be manipulated. So, I mean, we generated big plays in the pass game last year. 8 of them. I don't know that these are actually 8 big plays, to be honest with you. That was a 24-yard gain, but like this one's a 12-yard gain. That, to me, that doesn't qualify as a big play. Probably in the pass game last year, about 5 big plays. I'd like to see us generate at least 4 this year. I think it can be done. Andrews beating Simmons again, this time on an outside route. Andrews has been running these out-breaking routes more often. And I'm going to be honest with you, like Simmons just looks in the backfield too much for me. I think he's an extremely talented player. I think he's a great player. There's just too many times where he's looking in the backfield and he's reacting late to the route. And you will see examples of it from this year in 2022 where there's a lot of separation created against him because he's focused in the backfield so much. 12-yard gain to Andrews on outcut. The thing I like about this is it's going opposite Ricard's motion. Ricard's motion is going here. The back is on the side. So, you would think that the run action would be over here, and the run action is. But we're going back side of this. This has got to happen more often. We talked about this in a couple of videos recently. It's a great challenge by Simmons there, don't get me wrong. But I like the matchup in our favor, Simmons versus Andrews again. All right, 32-yard gain out of Jokers. And this is one of the best throws that Lamar's ever had. It's given the fact that he pump fakes to Andrews running the out. Here's Andrews running the out, and watch Lamar. I'll give you the end zone angle too. You've probably already seen it from last year. He pump fakes and then resets his feet and zips this in there to Marquise Brown in front of, by the way, that's Kyle Fuller who was challenging that play. End zone angle, same play. I think we can generate 4 of these plays. We just got to execute them. We got to catch the football. We got to deliver the football where it is. And we got to catch the football when there's contact or when there's defenders around us. If you listen to some of my videos this week, I talked about it seems like our defenders, particularly Peters and Stevens, are not challenging pass plays with the same authority as maybe in previous years. Simultaneously, it seems like our receivers are not catching balls when there's defenders close. I'm not saying to you that I think this is true. If I was going to be really harsh, it almost looks to me like a team that doesn't practice contested catches with offense versus defense. And when you have multiple guys hurt, when you have injury concerns, I can understand that, right? If that is true. A curl by number 1. And I think, again, you're getting a smash by number 2. It's not smash, actually, my bad. He's just running up the seam. You got a flat route here, and here's Watkins going against, I think that's Surtain. If you don't recall, I do because I did a video on it. Surtain was taken out of this game last year. Now, he's a different player this year. I'm not saying that he's not going to cause problems. He was taken out of this game last year, not for injury, to my knowledge. He was taken out of this game because we attacked him with Watkins, and we attacked him with Duve, and he had no ability to stop it. We went at him on 3rd down 3 times, and I think we were 3 for 3. They eventually took him out, and the guy they brought in for him actually made a stop down in the end zone on a slant by Duve, the same concept that Duve had beaten him on before. Duve had beaten Surtain on. All right, I'm interested to see if we can get any traction out of this, and I'll show some 2022 plays. So RPO, let me get rid of these annotations for a second. So RPO, so the back is on the side where we have 2 receivers, and we did this a ton last year with Marquise Brown. Run him out in the flats, snag it up here with Prochet. Prochet makes a great catch and then holds on to it, gets 14 yards. I think this is there for us, but when we do this against the Broncos out of our base personnel, so this is 2021 right now. We have 2 running backs, which is Ricard and Murray on the field, so that's your 2, and then the 1 is Andrews. If we're in 21, they're going to be in their base. So 2 inside backers, edge player, edge player. When we do the RPO, we're going to be reading the edge player. That's who we're not going to be reading inside backer against this team. Lamar decides to keep it and then throw the slant because the outside backer had expanded. I don't know if you guys can see him. You can see a little bit of his body there, and you can see how great of a catch that was by Prochet. Mesh has given him trouble in 2022. This is Simmons' man, by the way. I get a lot of pushback sometimes from people when I talk about some of his coverage issues. This is his man, which is Prochet, 32-yard gain up the left sideline on mesh. I think we got to run mesh more for real, and I think we've got to throw it to the underneath guys and not be so worried about throwing downfield. Get rid of it quick. Get the ball to our guys underneath, let them run horizontally, and let them create angles to try to make a play. All right, now let's talk about some big plays that we actually have had, and one of the things I want to mention to you I think we can do. Trick plays. Now, when I say trick plays, I don't mean like we've got to trick them to score. That's not what I mean, so don't misconstrue. They are so reactive to things in the backfield. Whatever the initial flow is that you give them, that's what they'll react to. If you don't notice already, this is our sweep pass to Likely for a touchdown. And there's a reason why I'm showing you this one before the Broncos game. But let's just check out the flow. It happens to everybody. You're getting flow because it looks like QB sweep, which we don't run. But people react to it nonetheless. Everybody's flowing because it looks like quarterback sneak. Why? Well, they're reading some type of key. Whether it's the end man on the line of scrimmage, whether it's the tight end who's the point man, and then maybe they're reading the backfield action, which is straight flow, meaning running back, quarterback, same side. Nobody is playing safety, essentially, and you get an easy touchdown for Isaiah Likely, 24 yards. We've run this against the Bucs this year out of a different formation. Same thing. This was a pretty big moment. This was after Gus got hurt, so a sudden change situation. When I say sudden change, it could be after a turnover, it could be first play of a quarter, anything, or like this one, after an injury. Again, Zion McCollum, linebackers, all flowing. You do have one, middle of the field free safety high. He's able to play it just because of the alignment. I mean, look where he's lined up. He's 15 yards depth, right? Why am I showing you this? What's it got to do with the Broncos? We did this to them last year. First play of the fourth quarter. This is the first time I had seen it. Mark Andrews touchdown. So it works against multiple people, all right? It's not like it only works against the Broncos, but watch these eyes. Everyone is reacting the same, with the same level of aggression, with the same level of commitment. All of the eyes are in the backfield. This guy's eyes right here are in the backfield. You'll get the end zone angle here in a moment. Simmons and Fuller, maybe they're reading a key. Maybe they're reading the E-mole, the end man on the line of scrimmage. It's possible because you're getting a pin by Tomlinson and pull by the right guard and right tackle. So it looks like run. I don't know that we can run this play against them again and have it succeed. Maybe we can run something like it. Me personally, I'd like to run it to our left. I'd like to run it at number 22. All right, you get a hold on the backside. Can't remember who this was on. That negates this. Clear hold and a grab. Unfortunately, negated it. It was a sudden change. It was the first play of the fourth quarter, and it basically would have put the game away. We need something like that, if you ask me. All right, another, I don't want to say trick play, but really ingenious play that goes against their aggression and their eye commitment. They're committed to first flow. 3rd and 30. How does Duve get this open? Is he just faster than those guys? Well, yeah, but this is Le'Veon Bell. I've broken this down many times, and if you've heard it already, my apologies. It's just 3rd and 30. Okay, the ball is at the 45. How do we get a field goal out of this? Duve runs a stop. Why does he run a stop at 10 yards on 3rd and 30? This is a designed downfield screen or downfield pick. Watch Le'Veon Bell after the ball was snapped. He does nothing. He just stands there. Why? He's supposed to. After Duve catches the ball, he comes in to pick this defender right here. Actually picks the corner, and Duve just outruns that defender. My bad. That's Kareem Jackson, number 22, that I keep talking about. He's a good player. Don't take it the wrong way like I'm saying he's no good. He's a good player. But I think foot speed-wise, he's the guy to attack on some of these situations with, a Duvernay or some of our faster guys. This is a designed play to get yards. It's not a reverse. It's not a QB sweep pass, but it's betraying their eyes because the point of attack isn't, the seam where the ball is caught. The point of attack is actually outside towards the sideline, and we're using a designed, delayed pick to make it happen. That is all by design. If you remember this play, they called it an illegal block on Le'Veon Bell at first. It's a 21 or 22-yard gain. We end up getting a field goal on the very next play. So this was huge. It was a huge moment, if you ask me, in terms of just getting points. This may have been the same possession as that after that touchdown to Andrews that was called back. I might be wrong there. So they picked that flag up, just so you know. Why am I showing you some of this? What's the evidence? Well, I have some. I've shown you against the Broncos. 2 separate plays. I haven't shown you any reverses. I haven't shown you any, toss passes for us. Well, this is this year's film. I think other people have seen this too. They react so heavy to initial flow that you can get them on anything that offers you bait. Great hustle by, I think it's 47, maybe 49. Anything that offers you bait, which in this case is a handoff to Derrick Henry, that's going to get your attention, right? And then it doesn't help that Simmons isn't playing, I don't believe, and you get 2 guys that run into each other. So that certainly doesn't help. But the design of this is to go here. Woods is he's just holding this safety. That's all that Woods is doing. This is designed to go here on the flea flicker. The Titans have always been great at designing these plays. It's a 3rd and 9, guys. A flea flicker. It's not a 3rd and 9. My apologies. It's a 1st and 10. Look at the down marker. I'll stop it so you can see how dumb I am sometimes. You'll see it here down here in a moment. It's a 1st and 10. Maybe you can't see it there. It's also up here. So it's a 1st and 10. They get them committed. I think that the Ravens have got to have 1 or 2 plays in like this. Maybe not a flea flicker because this just happened recently. But something to get their attention. Something that is offbeat, something that is slightly different. Now, this is earlier in the season. I think Chubb is still on the team here, but I could be wrong. And the guy that I'm talking about constantly attacking to their left misses the tackle here. It's a little bit of a draw, and the tackle is going to let this edge rusher get upfield initially, and then he's going to do what Morgan Moses does and smack him to the side. Well, what happens is the edge rusher stems inside, so now he can't smack him that way. Well, the running back just takes it off tackle. Decent block out on the edge by Marvin Jones. Travis Etienne, 49 yards. What am I showing you this for? Big plays can be generated on this defense. Do I think that big plays are going to be generated a whole lot? No, I don't. But I think the Ravens hopefully have done their homework and found, flea flicker, a reverse pass, the QB sweep pass, maybe a throwback screen. Another thing I noticed, and I haven't shown any to be honest with you, is when you throw a screen against this team, they react fast. They are very athletic, very fast. I love the personnel that they have. I wonder about double screens, meaning a screen set up to one side that Lamar opens to, and then we double back and throw the screen on the other side. Second-level players are oftentimes given the freedom to go ahead and attack that first flow. In my experience, your safeties, by definition, need to be a little slower playing initial flow. And the Broncos safeties, to me, attack initial flow just like second-level linebackers do. And that's why I say to you that anything that offers them some bait and that goes in the other direction could give them problems. All right, now let's look at some of the big plays that they've given up and see if we can find any patterns. And look, I don't have the time or the ability to sit and watch every single play. I wish that I did. I try to plan the season. Like when I do a film study about a particular player in week 1, it's oftentimes because we're going to play that team in week 9, and I want to get a little bit of familiarity with their team. The Broncos are one of the teams, to be honest with you, that I have watched the least amount of film of. Having said that, I was able to find some big plays or some things that the Ravens could target. I kind of mentioned them a little bit in that previous portion. What we're going to look at here is certain situations, route combinations, and big plays that they have given up in 2022, even though they are a pretty damn good defense. All right, so one of the guys that had a big game against them was Westbrook Akini, who I've probably mispronounced his name now 3 times. And this flood or Yankee concept, I guess actually, deep over Yankee concept, has given them trouble for 2 years. The Ravens last year, I showed you one example earlier, and then there was a second play where we didn't target that route, but it was open. This route has been open on them for the better part of 2 years against multiple coverages. Now, if it's man, someone's going to be chasing him, right? But look how wide open he is because of the clear out route. I mean, that's Ravens football right there. That is Ravens pass concept 101, the deep over. We've got to get that play off. We got to get time for Lamar to get that play off. Well, they don't have Von Miller. He hasn't been there all year, obviously. They don't have Chubb anymore either. Doesn't mean that they don't have guys. Browning, I think, has 5.5 sacks, to lead the team. And 2 other guys, I think, have 2.5 sacks, including Jewell. I think they've got 26 sacks, and they've given up 36. All right, second level, anything that's a switch release seems to give them trouble at times. Simultaneous to that, trips to the right seems to give them trouble. Usually it's Simmons here, and usually Simmons is like jumping an out, something like that. And whenever that is happening with trips, when he's jumping something, the backside safety is going to center field. So it is coordinated. It's not like the coverage is just, do whatever you want. But switch releases, where 2 receivers lined up with leverage end up switching, those things do seem to give this team trouble across multiple coverages. You've actually already seen this play. This is the 3rd and 9. Touchdown on, the slot fade, smash in, whatever you want to call it. It's attacking Jackson on a fade to the corner of the end zone. We've seen 2 examples of that this year. Now, we didn't attack it necessarily in the same way last year in 2021, but if you remember Marquise Brown's touchdown, that split the safeties out of empty. Z under that I showed you in the red zone segment here, this is to Treylon Burks again for 15 yards. Quick, underneath the coverage. Physical guy. We could do this with Duve. We could do this with Robinson. Get him the football underneath, let him go on a 2nd and 8. 2nd and 8, it seems like 2nd and long, they play down in distance, which is smart. It's the same thing the Buffalo Bills do, same thing the Bengals do. They play defense on down and distance. It's just classic old school defensive football. I think we can kind of take advantage of it depending on the personnel they give us, especially the 5-1 nickel. Flea flicker, you've already seen. Great design by the Titans. Look, as much as we don't like to admit it, Vrabel and his staff do a lot of really smart things. They have consistently come up with designed play action passes, same route, same play I showed you earlier. They've consistently come up with designed play action passes or schemed up situations to attack particular players on the defense. They've consistently done that. And when you get to play a team after the Titans do, or even, to be honest with you, after the Patriots do, sometimes they've kind of given you a blueprint for what you can do. Hopefully that makes sense. I think they have had trouble with tight ends, to be honest with you. Here's Ingram on the in, and you can see they're running the same route that we've been talking about to the other side, to Simmons' side, because Simmons is the left safety and Jackson is the right safety. But then they're running the in cut off of it to Ingram. And not only is it open, but he breaks a couple tackles and gets 18 yards. To me, likely looks like a guy, if he's able to go and be 100% healthy or close to 100%, he looks like a guy who could have a good game. I mean, Oliver's been playing well again, too. Levels concept. Underneath guy isn't open, but the secondary guy is. You really get a lot of break by this linebacker, meaning a lot of commitment to the running back. And I'm just not sure. I guess maybe is it supposed to be man? Is this man, this man, this man, and this man? If he's supposed to be man on the back, he's a long way off. You know what I mean? Unless they have a rule in where their edge defender takes somebody who's trying to go out into the flats, which I'm not aware of. We don't do that, by the way. If somebody's trying to run out in the flats, the old school Patriots and Giants way, have this guy collision him and knock the crap out of him. And then, whoever your inside linebacker is supposed to take him can take a different angle. He doesn't have to take such a severe angle that could open him up to a wheel. He's going to get some help on that chip, so he can take a little bit different angle and stay behind it some. I don't think that's what the Broncos have. The Ravens certainly don't, because running backs run right by our edge guys' faces. The only guy that I'm aware of who does anything like that is usually Bowser. That's just a long way off for that inside linebacker to be if he's in man. Okay, another thing I think we can do, a double move. And you'll see it here up at the top side. It's a defensive pass interference. We haven't really seen this. Demarcus Robinson's been open on these twice this year. Now, there's also been like 2 or 3 times where he's not open on them. I think it's available to us as an option to try to get these guys to where they have to turn their hips. And you can see it's obviously pass interference before that hold, and then there was another one there. It did go down as a DPI, not a hold, because it was a 30-yard gain. Trips, again, to the right. Watch Simmons step down. And then, as I said earlier, when Simmons steps down against trips, it's normally, aligned or coordinated with the backside safety taking over middle third. Well, look at the leverage he's taking on number 3. He's taking 3 vertical, which he has to. Since Simmons is spinning down with the out, he has to. That route is open. Very similar conceptually to the touchdown pass to Ingram, the touchdown pass to Westbrook-Akeen. Same concept. Would you agree? Now that's predicated on this corner, not being a deep third player or something like that. So we have to figure out what the coverages are, we being the Ravens offense. That route looks like it's there against this defense often, if you ask me. All of these don't qualify as big plays, but this is another thing that the Ravens do a lot of, this wide delay. So the tight end will chip and then release out. And a couple of things to say about this. I don't evaluate players in a negative way intentionally without evidence of saying it. Simmons is a hell of a football player, but he has a habit of allowing his eyes to be in the backfield early in the possession and late in the possession. If you have watched my content all year, you know that I talked about that with Kyle Hamilton in the preseason. I talked about it the same way. So it ain't like this is just a Ravens fan trying to say some BS about a player on the other team. So you'll get the end zone angle in a moment. You'll see the jerk move by this OLB. He basically push and then pulls the tight end down. So he slings him down on the ground. Awesome move. This is Simmons. Eyes in the backfield. At some point, though, you got the tight end. Yeah, Herbert is moving out of the pocket. It's a great play by him. He's looking downfield for something to attack downfield. Wonderful stuff. Simmons is not connected to the guy. This is very similar to a play that Garrett Wilson almost made against the Ravens in week 1 on a third and 10. If you remember, it was down on the bottom side. It was the right side of the offense, left side of the defense. Flacco escaped trouble somehow. Hamilton was all over Garrett Wilson initially, and then for whatever reason took his eyes off. It's the same habit. It doesn't mean that Simmons isn't a great football player. It doesn't mean people are wrong who say he's, one of the best safeties in the league. It just means that is a relative weakness of his. You don't really get a view of it here, to be honest with you, but you see that Herbert went all the way across the field with his view why does the guy end up being open? Simmons is physically capable of guarding, I think it's Parham. It's because Simmons was watching Herbert's eyes. Look at the separations that's there. He's physically capable of blanketing this guy, but his eyes will betray him at some point, early in the snap or late in the snap. Not on every play, but on enough of them that should be one of the Ravens' focuses, one of the ways that they try to attack him because he is so talented. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense and in a way that doesn't sound disrespectful. All right, Palmer for a 14-yard gain. Just a little in cut underneath linebacker level and then brings it over the top of the second linebacker level. So he's going to cross the face of 50, and I don't have the All-22 of this one. And then he's going to veer off a little bit more vertical to get behind the second inside linebacker, who is actually dealing with another threat. That's a route that the Ravens run a lot of. That's a route that we might attempt to target with, but the safeties for, like normally if you're going to run it here, a lot of times this other safety will try to take it. That's where I offer to you that the Ravens have got to run that route and then try to tag it with some kind of way to attack him and not let him be able to be there. So normally in their quarters or split field coverages, if you're getting too vertical, then the safety's going to clear out of there. If you're getting this, then now you're talking about what that safety's reading. And that's one of the things that makes quarters or split field coverages so dangerous is that you don't know as a quarterback. It's not a hard-coded coverage structure. It's dependent upon the releases. All right, the Ravens run this play as well. One back play action. Run action to the left. Bring it back to the top side. Just a little stutter out. They ran this against the Jets twice in week 1. They've run it multiple times out of one back. But the problem is the one thing the Ravens haven't done, we haven't run this. We haven't run the ball, on stretch or something here to that side yet. We haven't run that enough to really, if you ask me, make the boot something that this edge player has to commit to. In terms of committing to the run away, we haven't run that enough to force that guy to go down the line and do so. Look at this Broncos edge player. Down the line for a moment and then right at Justin Herbert. If you ask me, that's what they would do against us because we haven't shown the run out of single back, one back. We haven't shown that run on that stretch away enough on film to force them to keep themselves honest. All right, some play concepts that the Ravens use that I think we can use against this team. I got 14 plays here queued up so you can check them out, and we're going to roll right into the same concept that I was talking about, to be honest with you. One back, under center, play action boot. 2 plays I just talked about. This is first play of the season, guys. Bateman running the Z under. The drag, if you ask me, that over is going to be too deep for this defense. Because here's how this is related. Again, what did I just say? We don't run the ball enough here at a single back. So the backside end, whoever that is, he's going to be in Lamar's face quicker on the boot because he doesn't have to respect the run away from him. Hopefully the way that I said that makes sense. Now, there's obviously things to say about Lamar's speed and athleticism too, and even if we did run the ball away, maybe the edge player would attack Lamar. Okay, then that would set up the cutback. Then we should run the ball away. I'm saying this route right here on this particular play concept might not be available to us because Lamar on the boot is probably going to have an edge defender in his face somewhere in that area there. It might be too slow developing. Might have to be more of a shallow drag. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense and doesn't betray something I said about 5 minutes ago. One back, under center. Demarcus Robinson down at the bottom of the screen. Again, the play action to our left. Coming back to the Z, out to the right. Same concept on the backside with Duve. Andrews, the front side guy, is sitting in the hash. In my opinion, if Andrews is going to sit in between the hash and the top of the numbers, then again, the backside route, Duve, should be more of a shallow one. But you're going to get an edge defender in the face of Lamar a whole lot quicker than normal unless you leave a tight end in to deal with him like we did here against the Bengals, which is a smart adjustment. So that's one play concept I think we could run 1 or 2 times, get some yards out of it, but also tag that run concept 2 to 1 to the side, to our left, to the defense's right, the offense's left. All right, what else can we use? RPOs. I did the RPO video a couple of days ago. I'm a huge fan of RPOs. Used to hate them. Dobbins and Gus, Drake. I feel like Dobbins is better at this stuff, like letting a lineman get out in front and then using that lineman to set up a two-way go. Meaning, I can try to bounce this outside, or I can try to cut this back underneath. He's just such a gifted runner. If he is able to go, to be a huge asset. This is 7 yards here on an RPO. We've got to run the ball more out of the RPO. Meaning we got twins over here, or we're motioning. We got one over there, and we're motioning the second guy over. In my opinion, when we're running the RPO, it can't all be predicated on motion. So this is the motion. It's possible that this is not an actual RPO, guys. It's possible that this is actually just a called give. But if you watch the edge defender from the end zone angle, it's number 50, I think, Rousseau, who's a pretty good player. That's a give read for Lamar. 7 yards. And these RPOs, these first couple I'm showing you, are out of A or B gun, meaning the back is on the side of Lamar. I showed you this play in an RPO video a couple of days ago. Tight end out in the flats. You're getting a vertical by number 1. Great play concept. I shared on Twitter. This video, or I shared on Twitter a diagram and someone breaking down, his name's Coach Mack, breaking down this play concept and how it's really forcing these defenses that don't want to rotate, putting them in a bind. And that's why they're widening up the inside linebacker. When I say don't want to rotate, I mean on this motion, they don't want to spin down one safety, roll another safety back. Your classic sky cover 3. Sky meaning safety force. And then some teams would, walk up the corner, roll the safety, and this would be cloud cover 3, where the corner is staying in the flats, and the other 2 safeties he's taking over the 1/3, the outer third, he's taking over the middle third, and he's got the deep thirds back to that opposite side. These teams that don't want to roll, these quarter split field coverage teams that want to maintain their 2 high safety structure, this play, if you ask me, breaks their coverage. They cannot cover the vertical by 1, the flat route by the tight end, and then also any kind of curl or curl wheel or wheel sit by the guy who went in motion. All right, another kind of RPO that we run that I think should be run at least twice a game is the little screen. I mean, Duve is so great at this. This just seems like something that needs to be run more often. I said earlier in the video that after we've run this a couple of times against this team for the Broncos, we've got to give them this motion, hitch it up with Duve, and then run Andrews up the sideline. Because they are so reactive, they being the Broncos, they are so reactive to the ball and to Lamar's face mask and to where he's looking, that if you ask me, the potential is there for that play to possibly be open. I'm not saying that it's definitely going to be open. I'm just saying the potential is there. Same concept, running back on one side, the wheel route, Duve, I forget Duve's stem there, to be honest with you, and then likely run it out into the flats. Duve was the guy who caught the football. I should remember that. It's a great concept. I think Coach Evans was in one of the chats for a video that I did this week on the RPOs, and what he was saying was, I'm not sure if people picked up on it, he was saying that, and I'm 99% sure he's right, the Ravens hit all 3 of these last week. And that could, the route structure could have been slightly different in terms of which guy was hit, because we do it a little differently. Actually, against the Saints, I'll show you this play in a moment. The Saints, we adapted Prochet's route, and I really like it. I would love to see us hit this more often. This is going to be complete to Deshaun Jackson, but Jackson and Prochet's routes are switched here, and I think that the Broncos really are going to have trouble with anything that's a switch release, guys. If they're not going to roll coverage, if they want to stay in their 2 high safety structure, they're going to have trouble with stuff like this. Normally, the guy in motion runs the wheel. And the guy here runs, maybe he runs a slant, maybe he runs skinny post, maybe runs a snag. Maybe just runs a curl. Now, in this case, we are running the curl and the wheel, but it's the outside receiver who's running, pseudo wheel, and the guy in motion crochet who's bringing this back into the middle of the field. I think that route's going to be open. I'm talking about the one that Prochet just ran. I think it'll be open against the Broncos. I'm very interested in this play concept for us. Another one that I think has been shown in this video, now this is short yardage for us and it's incomplete, is smash. This is the same exact play the Ravens ran on 4th and goal against the Bills. Lamar makes the decision to throw to Andrews because he thinks he's open. And, guy makes a great play. But look, there's a linebacker bearing down on him. Were Lamar to have another split second, throw into Duve. Duve's going to be open. Duve's got the guy beat. There's going to be an option to get him that football, somewhere in this area. But Lamar made his decision to throw here. So he's already throwing the football. He thinks Andrews is going to be able to, curl this back. And I can't blame him for thinking that because Andrews has caught plenty of these balls. In this case, it was just a great play by their guy, McCollum, who's a hell of an athlete. Those are some of the play concepts I think the Ravens can run in the pass game. And here's one that I'm interested to see in the run game, is the counter wind back. I've talked about, I showed you the flea flicker by the Titans. I've talked about, I think screens are not available against this Broncos team. They're too fast on defense. Maybe a double screen. Lamar open and look this side for the screen. Let them react to it, especially their second-level players and maybe Simmons, and then bring the screen back to the other side. Toss pass. A reverse pass. Anything that has a trick nature to it. The quarterback sweep pass worked against the Broncos last year. So this isn't necessarily in the same category because of Ricard, but Lamar's opening the wrong way and we're winding this back. I'm interested to see how they defend this. I'm going to show you how the Browns defended it later, and the Browns do it in a way that I don't think the Broncos can. If the Broncos want to stay in their too high safety structure, which they generally do to avoid giving away coverage, I don't know how they're going to stop the counter wind back and stop Lamar keeping this because of just sheer numbers. Just sheer numbers. And I'll explain it a little bit better when we get to the Browns play that I'll show you. I think I'll show you two. Counter wind back has Lamar open one way and then running back bring it back the opposite side. I think we've got to run this opposite opposite Ricardo at some point. So what I mean is the back is almost always veering to the side that Ricard is going. I get it. I understand. Personally, just for a moment, act like everybody here is doing the same thing, except let's say that Ricard was over here. I want to see Ricard go in motion and Lamar open, to that side. I don't draw it this way, arrow that way, because Lamar's kicking off the midline. Right, so that's why I draw it initially to the wrong side. I want to see us run the wind back opposite of Ricard's motion. So basically, everybody doing the same thing they're doing on this play, except Ricard running in the opposite direction. And then Ricard reading this edge player with Lamar. So if Lamar keeps it, then Ricard just loops around. He just loops around to go block a second-level player and leads Lamar out there. If this guy runs down the line, I don't know what we would have Ricard do in that situation. Maybe we would have Ricard block him. But I'm guessing if that guy runs down the line, Ricard would loop around. Lamar would keep it if he happens to be reading it on that play. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm interested to see how the Broncos defend it. Another counter wind back. Again, we got motion coming, but we're going behind Ricard. When you get the end zone angle, you'll see what I mean. 10-yard gain by Dobbins, who, like I said, will be a huge boost if we get him back. So the motion is going right to left for the Ravens, left to right on our screen. Motion is Duve. Ricard is still taking us to the play. There's just got to be a way that we get Likely back there, and he didn't play last week, so that may have been a factor. It looked like against the Saints, we were starting to incorporate Likely as a guy who was in the backfield doing those Ricard reads. Ricard motion right to left. Lamar opens to the right. And where's the wind back go? Behind Ricard. It's still working at times, don't get me wrong, but I want to see us do it the other way. I want to see us run Ricard right to left, have Lamar open with Ricard, open in the same direction as Ricard is going. So in this case, as I explain this, I'm going to say everybody do the same thing, except I would like to see Lamar open this way, Drake wind it back here, and everybody on the offensive line, all 5 of these guys, just flip jobs. Down, kick, down, wrap, however we want to do it. If we want to pull the guard and the tackle, fine too, whatever. Go opposite Ricard with this against the Broncos, and I think it's a big play. I mean, a counter windback gets shut down by certain teams, and then certain teams have no clue how to stop it. The Giants didn't really do a great job stopping it at all. The Bucs didn't do a great job stopping it at all. And then we faced the Browns, and the Browns just made it look like an elementary school play. They made it look like a youth football play. I think that one's coming up next, and I'll try to explain why I don't think that the Broncos can do it this way. Here's Ricard. He's going to go in motion. Lamar's opening opposite Ricard, and the back is winding it back behind Ricard. Let's just see it a couple of times. Now, this is where some people are like, Lamar doesn't read the option. Well, they don't understand. This is a called give. Because if he's reading it and he's reading this player here, he's keeping it. But the Browns know that. They're running this guy behind to take away the wind back, which he does. And then if Lamar does keep it, they're bringing this nickel down off the edge at Lamar. So they have someone dedicated to Lamar if he keeps it. And that's number 33. Hopefully the way that I explain that makes sense. I don't think the Broncos can do this. I don't think they can dedicate a backside guy to Lamar. It also depends on formation too, guys. We only have one receiver up here, So the nickel 33 isn't going to be set up here for no reason, right, to defend the single receiver side. So part of it is the formation. Don't get me wrong. Part of it is also Ricard. And I'm saying the Ravens, if we get a little more savvy about which way Lamar opens on this counter windback, if everybody does the same job, blocks it the same way, and Ricard is here, this guy might be on the other side. Now, then they still have a problem. You can't do that if you're the Broncos. Just look at the numbers. You can't do that. Somebody's got to line up over Andrews. Somebody has to, right? So Ricard on this side, everybody do the same thing they're doing, except Lamar open and hand the ball off the same way, open with Ricard this time. And then Ricard read this guy. Let's imagine it happens this way. And Lamar reads that end. 94. D tackle, DN, whatever. What's that read? It's a keep read. This guy's coming for Lamar. Ricard can block him. There's got to be there's got to be a little bit more depth as the season moves on with some of our option plays or option look plays. We've got to adapt and adjust as the season goes on. We used to, Ricard go this way, Lamar would open that way. Now we're opening opposite Ricard. And I think against the Broncos, they're going to be in a world of hurt if we mix it up and do it the other way. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense. These are some of the Ravens play concepts that I think are there for us just by alignment and by the fact that the Broncos want to keep a too high safety structure generally. Now, when they get in 3rd and long and they just want to man you up and stop you, all bets are off. It's a little bit different. The situation's a little bit different in terms of what we would run. We wouldn't be going play action boot on 3rd and 8, right? Let me know what you think of the Ravens play concepts that I highlighted and tried to illustrate that I think could be there and the reasons that I gave you that I think they might be open. All right, this last section is going to focus on the Broncos offense and focus on one specific situation where I could foresee the Ravens having trouble, depending on our personnel and who actually plays in the game on Sunday. I know Kyle Hamilton has practiced this week. I know that Marlon Humphrey, I think, had an ankle earlier in the week, but has since returned to practicing every day, I believe. Were Kyle Hamilton not to play, our coverage situation is different. I think that the Jaguars game displays that, unfortunately. Kyle Hamilton being out has a trickle-down effect or trickle sideways or whatever you want to call it on the Ravens' coverage abilities that even kind of harkens back to us not having Kyle Fuller available for, the whole season since week 1. We have constantly been 1 DB down when we get into these obvious passing situations. I do think there's some possible solutions at certain times. I'm not sure that I'll offer them in the context of the end of this video. Maybe that's a standalone video, depending on how things turn out on Sunday at home. If this offense comes in and is able to throw the ball as effectively in the fourth quarter against the Ravens defense with Kyle Hamilton there playing healthy and Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Peters, I would be surprised. If Kyle Hamilton is not there and either Pepe Williams is on the field or Brandon Stephens to replace him, all bets are off in terms of that previous statement I just made. Not that I don't like those guys, not that I don't think they have talent, particularly Pepe Williams. I think he's got more long-term talent than Brandon Stephens, who's just a battler, and I think a guy who, were we completely healthy in the defensive backfield, I'm talking about Fuller, Peters, Humphrey, Marcus Williams, Clark, Stone, Hamilton, I don't think Stephens is on the roster, just to be real. If we had all of our guys healthy and available, or if he is on the roster, him and Pepe Williams are battling it out for that last spot, I guess. I'm not sure how many DBs I counted there. It might have been one too many. Hopefully my point is made without being disrespectful to Brandon Stephens. I certainly hope he has a great career. I'd love to see him play shutdown defense when he's in there. Personally, I'd like to see Kyle Hamilton on the field. What we're going to do is we're going to look at late game offense from the Broncos when they're down against Carolina last week. To me, when they go in pass mode, 11 personnel pass mode, that is what could threaten us the most. And I'll start here. Pro twins. So this is the pro side. Here's the twin side. Ball's on the left hash. Back is into the boundary. There's going to be a sling effect or a rope effect with the second level players for the Panthers. Frankie Lavu is trying to out-leverage the running back. Shaq Thompson is running almost horizontally as well. Look at their alignment. Look where they were. So we're talking about Frankie Lavu and Shaq Thompson. What that does is it leaves too much space in the middle of the field here for the slot to operate against number 27. Why? Because the running back was flaring out into the flats. That's just one of the things. A lot of teams are doing it, all right? The Jags did it. The Panthers tried to as well. Put the running back to the boundary with the tight end. Really stresses the defense horizontally, making you defend the entire width of the field when they're in 11 personnel. It's not foolproof. It's not something that works all the time. If we're able to put our best slot defender on the field and our linebacker doesn't betray his area like Shaq Thompson does here, then I think you're fine. I think you're okay. I think you've got enough guys on the second level. But to me, that's where this Broncos team could have some success. 11 personnel throwing the football, particularly if Kyle Hamilton is unable to go or, unfortunately, unable to finish the game. All right, this is a two-receiver route, guys, with two guys chipping deep out by Cortland Sutton, who only has one 100-yard game on the season, but you won't find me being one of those guys who's like, he's disappointing, he's this, he's that. Like, I would want Cortland Sutton on my team. He looks very talented. I suspect he's been dealing with injuries just from some of the film progression I've seen during the year. I don't pretend to know that, other than the fact that I know that him and one of their other starting receivers, I think Jerry Jeudy, was on the injury report as late as Friday. So you can see the chip and then late release is something the Ravens do as well to try to get under the coverage. And then you've got deep outs by, I think, Jeudy and Cortland Sutton. Russell Wilson's already decided to go where to go with the football. That's going to be an interesting matchup. Sutton against Marcus Peters when he's on the right. Me personally, I hope that when he's on the left, we're able to put Marlon Humphrey on him. All right, again, running back into the boundary. It's a 2-by-2 formation, so it's balanced, but it's not a balanced defense because you have the nickel to the field, and now the inside linebacker to the boundary has essentially got a mirrored responsibility. If you've got a mirrored coverage call, if you've got split field coverage call, it may be different. You can see how quickly Russell Wilson's just getting the ball out there in the flats. Frankie Lavue is capable of everything. I did a video on him after the Ravens game against the Panthers. Tremendously underrated player. Really like his game. Quick enough to cover running backs out into the flats, particularly to the boundary. A scramble by Russell Wilson, who retains, enough of his athleticism to get outside the pocket. This is a 2nd and 7, creates a 3rd and 1. They run trap. The Broncos, everyone doesn't run trap at any level of football. We used to look at teams, and when we're planning our defense, if teams didn't run trap, we kind of made some conclusions about them because they weren't putting defensive tackles in any kind of conflict. They were just kind of allowing our defensive tackles to get upfield and attack if we wanted to. This is a trap where the D tackle has fallen down. Looks like he's in a 4-eye. So he's trying to engage the tackle because he suspects the tackle is going to down block him. In this case, it's trap. He's being left unblocked. Easy first down conversion for Latavius Murray, who's had some pretty good moments for them this year, let's be honest. It's been good to see. Hope he doesn't have any on Sunday, though. Deep threat, I think, is Virgil. I think he's had a 68-yard touchdown catch this year. That's something the Ravens will have to be aware of. He's a guy that they like to use on deep stuff. A little more than, in terms of the middle of the field, a little bit more than Cortland Sutton, to be honest with you. Russell Wilson still has the arm to get the ball there. He certainly hasn't produced the stats as well as in previous years. Me personally, I would not look at a guy like Russell Wilson and ever underestimate him. He's someone who clearly has a lot of heart and a lot of ability to make plays. Frankie Lavue gave them trouble, though. Another sack by him. He played great against the Ravens the week before. I think he played fantastic in this game against the Broncos. Dipping around. To me, it looks like the Broncos have trouble with athletic second-level guys, which benefits the Ravens because we have 2 of them, and Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen. So I'm kind of encouraged by seeing Frankie Lavue play really well against them because we have 2 guys that are, better athletes than him and probably a little bit bigger and faster as well. When you get to watch the game on Sunday, notice the stance of the tight end. And this is just kind of something that's across offenses. This is not just the Broncos and Dulcich. Dulcich, I can't remember how to say his name, to be honest with you. This flat stance is not a stance to take off and run a vertical. It doesn't mean that he won't run a route from a flat stance, but the flat stance allows him the ability to go this way or that way. That's the reason why he's in a flat stance. It doesn't give away his intentions. It doesn't give away the run pass, and it doesn't give away direction as well. Something to look at when you see the tight end attached to the formation is their stance, and then also where they're looking pre-snap. Dulcich, pretty talented player. I think it's Dulcich, right? All right, couple of targets of Cortland Sutton. This over or Yankee concept, whatever you want to call it. Big target running across the field. Russell Wilson getting smacked, but getting rid of the ball in enough time to let Sutton make a play. Look, the game was over at this point. Great catch by Sutton. I picked this possession because it was a lot of plays and because I think it shows the scenario when the Ravens have had the most trouble this year, which is teams just deciding, hey, we're going to throw the football on every down. And that's just something historically we've had trouble with. This concept kind of scares me, to be honest with you, if Hamilton is not on the field. If Hamilton's out there, he's able to cover this tight end fine, I believe. Or if we switch it off like the Panthers do here. Ends up being a sack, but the coverage is what I like. It's man here, which is a Meg call. Man everywhere he goes. And then Horn is reading 2. So when you get this in-breaking route, corner's going to take it. In-breaking route, Horn's going to level off, and he takes this route. We have had situations this year where we have not done this. We've not been man on 1 and reading 2, which allows us to play with better leverage, particularly late in games. Dulcich for a 13-yard gain. He runs out of bounds, 1-on-1 against Shaq Thompson here. And that's the initial route. Russell Wilson is going to be able to find time. Now, when they're in hurry-up mode like they were here, the D-line is exhausted, so they're having a lot of trouble just getting upfield at all. They're kind of taking a play off. Wilson's able to scramble around. This happened to us a little bit last week, I thought, in one of the late possessions by the Jaguars. They were able to get our guys worn out because they were going hurry up and keep them on the field. It was a penalty on Dulcich for stepping out of bounds. It was actually offsetting penalties, so they just replayed the down. All right, 0-yard gain to Hinton in the end zone. Russell Wilson thought he had a touchdown pass. I still think he's capable, guys, of producing and making plays. I would not approach this game like Russell Wilson can't execute concepts against us if we're not in good coverage relationship or good coverage leverage, I should say. Sutton against Horn. This is why I like Marlon on him. Horn is outsized here. He's given up height, weight, strength. But Marlon and Horn are similar in the fact that they're going to be physical. If we can, in these moments, and this is even hearkening back to the Zay Jones thing. This is 3rd and goal, by the way. I think Humphrey's got to be on the best guy in those situations. If you're going to throw to your best guy in some of these big situations, to me, we've got to have Humphrey on him. This one's going to go to Sutton. It's going to be a defensive pass interference. I'm not sure that the call is down here, to be honest with you, on Horn or anyone else for that matter. But I do know it's defensive pass interference on a ball that Sutton was unable to catch in a crowd. I don't think that the Broncos are going to be in this type of attack mode early in the game. And most teams are not, right? Most teams don't get into this type of attack mode until 4th quarter, and that's when the Ravens have had the most struggles, the most difficulty stopping people, at least when we've had a compromised secondary. We were compromised against the Dolphins in the 4th quarter because Humphrey was out, and we got beat on some concepts that haven't beaten us all year. And then we were compromised in the 4th quarter last week against the Jags, primarily because Kyle Hamilton wasn't there. This route has given us trouble, kind of like a whip route China in, not necessarily. Hinton is just, if you ask me, just adjusting to Russell Wilson's focus. Going to finish this up. Look, let me know if you think I've missed any elements of this preview. It's impossible for me to kind of preview the game, every element of their offense. I kind of pick and choose what to focus on. I'm not saying that Latavius Murray and their run game can't be effective. I'm just saying that based upon the matchup and our defensive personnel, if Hamilton doesn't play, I would think that them attacking with the pass game would be their quickest route to some points, their quickest route to threatening us. I don't think this is the way to attack the Ravens in the end zone. I think it's what you saw the Jags do, running people out in the flats and beating us with speed against Stevens or Peters, guys who, admittedly are not the fastest compared to the receivers they're covering at times. This is a great job on mesh, by the way, of this receiver down here. It's 11 personnel. Of this receiver basically acting as a shield, a pick, rub, whatever you want to call it, on Jace Horn. It is man, but he's getting Horn out of there, and he's screening the guy who's supposed to be covering Johnson, running the other drag across the screen. Hopefully you see that in a way that makes sense. So I think they're capable. I don't think this is an offense that is going to put up 24-plus points against us, to be honest with you, if we have the full complement of our DBs there to play. Of course, we know Marcus Williams is not going to play. Kyle Hamilton is the big one. Let me know what you think of my preview overall. I think if we have Hamilton available, our offense is going to be able to put up 24, 26, 27 points, somewhere in that range. And I think that number is just too much for the Broncos to get to unless we turn the football over. If we turn the football over one or even two, if we turn the football over 2 times, all bets are off. On scores that I predicted, on the outcome of the game. If we turn the ball over 1 time, depending on where it is, I would say that I would subtract 10% of the score total I've given you. I said this earlier in the video, kind of a weird way to predict points. I think that we get 1 touchdown, 2 or 3 field goals in the red zone. So either 13 or 16 points in the red zone, possessions that, get to the red zone, reach the red zone, or even originate there after a turnover. And I think we get 10 points from outside the red zone, 1 field goal and 1 touchdown. And I think that could be an offensive touchdown. I'm not sure what concept it will be on. Could be on an over Yankee concept. Could be on QB sweep pass. I mean, we ran it against them last year. trick play that the Ravens utilize, a flea flicker, reverse pass, something like that. I don't want to see our trick play like have two QBs on the field, though. I don't know about you. Like, don't give them a pre-snap indicator as to what that a trick play might be coming. You know what I mean? Seems to if memory serves, we did that last week against the Jags. Had two quarterbacks on the field. Say why? You're kind of giving them a heads up that something is different. Now, in that case, I think it was just to run the ball up the middle and just to give them something else to think about. The Broncos defense is generally going to be predictable in terms of lining up with two safeties. I'm not sure they're going to show us a ton of different looks. They want to try to disguise their coverage as long as they can, and keeping those two safeties up high seems to be the way that they want to do it. I think if the worst case scenario for this is the Ravens turn the ball over twice against a physical, fast, talented defense, and we don't get a touchdown from outside the red zone, and we either win this game 21-18 or we lose 21-20. To me, that's worst case scenario. Best case scenario is we get 10 points from outside the red zone, so a touchdown and a field goal in some manner. Don't turn the ball over at all, and we get 1 or 2 touchdowns in the red zone, and we win this game 28-13, 28-12, something like that. I don't mean to be disrespectful towards the Broncos' offensive talent. Certainly it is the relative weakness of their team compared to their defense. They do have talented guys there, though. Sutton, Murray, Russell Wilson's made a ton of plays in his NFL career. He's been there, done that, seen everything. I expect that they will have a good plan to try to attack us. It'll be the Ravens' job, defensively to not give up big plays and to give their offense a chance, give our offense a chance to get some distance between us and them in the fourth quarter. A little, even though 19-10 is some distance, it didn't turn out to be enough last week. Let me know what you think of my preview in the comment section. If you appreciate this type of segmented, focused preview on certain parts of the other team, and then trying to show you some of our film to supplement that and say, this is what I think we could run that kind of matches what I see as a possible area to target or attack for us. These are fun for me to do. They do take a heck of a lot of time. If you've ever considered contributing or something, let me know, because this one took me the better part of about 5 hours work this week to produce. It is a lot of fun, regardless of whether people donate or whatever you call it. I don't even remember what it's called, to a video. These are fun for me to do. I wish I could do these for college videos for real. If you're at all interested in it, I'm going to try to do a little bit of tweeting and reacting to the college football games, the conference championship games that are later on today, specifically the TCU game and the Michigan game late in the evening, because it looks like if both those teams win, they could be faced up against each other in the college football playoffs on New Year's Eve. Appreciate you guys' time. Let me know what you think of the video in the comment section.